Having observed similar incidents while on tour with Baba, Chanji took Watson into the library and made him sit down. Watson continued to weep for about 15 minutes and then became quiet. His eyes filled with tears, and he asked softly, "How long have you been with him?" "For 7 years," Chanji replied. Hearing this, Watson placed his hand in a fatherly way on Chanji's back and said, "My son, do you realize how fortunate you are to have been living in such close contact with such a great personality?" "Yes, sir, I do consider myself fortunate," Chanji answered. "It is his grace that I am near him." After a few moments of silence, Watson revealed, "In my 77 years of life, today is the first time I have experienced what divine love is. I have come to realize this with just a touch from Meher Baba." Chanji said, "Such a privilege is bestowed on very few." As age recounted, without Watson's asking, Baba had rocked the ground of his being. Watson's heart blossomed, and he saw a new light, the light that dispels the darkness of ages. It was wonderful how the master's work was manifesting. He was forging a link with Watson for a plan which, up to now, Baba had not revealed. Baba was planning on going to America from England, and Watson was to be his medium for arranging it. Baba's small room was above the lobby entrance facing south, overlooking the valley of Combe Martin. Meredith would conduct visitors up to the room for short interviews with Baba, yet Meredith still insisted on the usual routine of 4 hours of meditation per day. Meditation persisted, despite the fact that the master, the object of their meditation, was with them in physical form. Despite the somber regimen, Baba did manage to slip away and meet with the Mandali in the dairy barn where Chanji and Rustum were staying, though Meredith tried to prevent this also. Baba went to the barn very early the next morning and sat on one of the cots, discussing matters with them for some time. Herbert, Chanji, and Rustum shared the room, while Aga Ali stayed with Baba in the main house. Later that morning, it rained while Baba met with each person individually. A versatile personality, Charles Benjamin Purdom, 48, author, drama critic, accountant, and editor of a magazine called Everyman, had visited Devonshire earlier that year on holiday and had been corresponding with Meredith. Upon meeting Baba, Purdom said, "I feel that something like a stone has entered my heart and is stuck there without dissolving. I am now terribly confused as to what it is." Baba dictated, "It is the outcome of the spiritual current and rays of the spiritual atmosphere here." He gestured for Purdom to sit beside him. After a few minutes, Baba asked how he felt. "Good, peaceful and calmer," Purdom said. Purdom later wrote in Everyman of his experiences with Meher Baba. "I have been brought by what seems like chance, but no doubt deserves some other name, into personal contact with a perfect master from the East. His eyes are large and beaming, lighting up his face, which radiates happiness. He has a great sense of fun and is said to be a first-rate cricketer. He combines the simplicity of a child with the wisdom of the ages. Although he does not speak, but communicates by means of an alphabet board, I have had several conversations with him, but to talk with him is not the important matter. It is sufficient to be in the same place. Ali Rose, would you like to continue?
Yeah, Rosalie will continue. On the 14th, for half an hour, Baba explained to Watson about the different stages of the development of the mind and described how the mind experiences the universe. Baba dictated, when our sight turns within, then the search for God begins. To attain Godhood, two things are required. First, pure conduct, and second, ideal service rendered selflessly. Watson asked, what can I do? I am too old and feeble to render much service, but I can help in the other way you suggest. Baba gestured, don't worry, I will instruct you. After lunch, Baba went for a walk along the cliffs by the seashore. Various persons in the group collected driftwood as souvenirs. In the evening, Meredith read out his poems in a sonorous tone, each followed by a few minutes of silence. On the 14th, another fortunate devotee to meet the master that day was Catherine Anna Tolhurst, 26. Kim, as she was called, was an intelligent, red-haired young woman. She was interested in Buddhism and was studying judo under Koizumi, a martial arts teacher who had met Baba in London. Koizumi had spoken to Kim, telling her about Meher Baba, Meredith star and of the ashram in Devonshire. This is something that will interest you, Koizumi assured her. Kim wrote to Meredith that she was a seeker who had always hoped to find the real answers in life. Kim once recalled the sequence of events that followed. Meredith wrote back that he felt I was ready for whatever the ashram retreat had to offer, and vaguely mentioned that a master was coming. Anyway, I went absolutely unprepared for what was going to happen. There was enormous excitement the night Baba arrived. Though I didn't see him or any of the others with him. The next evening, Meredith said to me, Sri Meher Baba has arrived and I would like you to go see him. Well, I went upstairs to his little room, which resembled a monastic cell. It was really a very old farmhouse with walls that were several feet thick. Baba was seated on a bed, robed in white. I don't know what happened. I shall never know what happened. All I know is that I found myself on my knees at Baba's feet, crying as I think I have never cried before. The tears were streaming down my face. I don't think I was unhappy. I don't think I was happy. Perhaps the tears seemed to wash away all that had happened to me in the past, all that I had regretted. I was empty in a sense, yet filled with lightness and a new dawn, fresh life. I felt clean and light. I don't know how long this weeping lasted. I couldn't tell you. It was timeless. Baba dictated on the board, which I heard Chanji interpret. She is to stay near me. Somebody picked me up. I was put to bed and fell into a deep slumber. I can't explain what happened. It was a long, long time ago, but it is an impression which has remained very deep. I always loved Jesus Christ, and it seemed to me that Baba was like the Jesus I had known as a child in the paintings depicting him. I felt this tremendous love, this tremendous compassion. Although there was a great deal to criticize in me and even be stern about, I most certainly had not always been as good or nice a person as I should have been. In his eyes, there was nothing but understanding and compassion, and no condemnation at all. I think it was that won me over to him. However sensual one had been, however undutiful, ungrateful, or careless, whatever one's faults were that he saw, it seemed as if he saw what one might become and drew this out. That is really all I can say. The next morning, Kim awakened in a normal state of mind, but thereafter constantly sought to be near Baba. On Tuesday, 15th September 1931, Baba asked Charles Purdom how he was feeling. Purdom replied, "I feel that everything from my head has entered my heart, and there is a burning sensation in my chest." "Good," Baba gestured, and he explained to him about the three types of faith: intellectual faith, faith by sight, and faith by experience. After interviews, Baba went for a walk with the group to the valley where Meredith and Margaret sang songs about him. Baba was in a splendid mood and mentioned for the first time about his mission for the world and revealed that he was the avatar. In the known history of the world, this was the first time that the avatar was consecrating the soil of the Western Hemisphere by his presence. To free the birds of his garden, he was imprisoning them in the cage of his love by journeying to them. And for the first time, Baba candidly disclosed to his followers in England that he was the avatar, the Messiah, the Christ for whom the world had long been waiting. Whereas in India, all his devotees were still referring to him as the Sadguru, a perfect master. Although God first appeared in physical form in the East, he first revealed himself to be the avatar in the West. That day, Watson said to Baba, "America is the country for a great spiritual worker like you. You must go there. If you permit me, I shall make all the necessary arrangements for you and your group to visit us. On behalf of the American people, I extend my heartiest invitation to you to come to the United States. Baba expressed his pleasure at Watson's love, but declined his invitation. He said he intended to establish 5 or 6 retreats in Europe first, and then settle in America. Watson tried to persuade Baba to change his mind. Ooh, it went blank.
Sorry. Let's see. There. Is it visible now?
No, I can't
Oh.
even see you now.
Oh, wow.
It says Baba family.
Uh-huh. I wonder if we lost the share. Let me see. Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe read from Baba Expressed.
Yeah, that's good. Baba expressed his pleasure at Watson's love, but declined his invitation. He said he intended to establish 5 or 6 retreats in Europe first, and then settle in America. Watson tried to persuade Baba to change his mind. Finally, at his constant plea, Baba agreed to go to America. In truth, Baba wanted to visit America all along, but his methods are sometimes not apparent. After Baba accepted his invitation, Watson and his wife prepared to leave for the United States to see to all the arrangements for the master's visit. On that day, Watson wrote, "We have decided to leave here on Friday, the 18th. I feel that if I should stay with Baba a year, I could not know him better than I did in the first second that I met him face to face. I knew that he meant universal love. That is God. Baba must cut his hair and dress conventionally when he comes to America, or he cannot have the influence on the leaders of industry he should. Instead, in his present form, he will segregate around him only the poet tasters, the sentimental, and the dabblers in new sensations." Another American link for the master's work in America was Albert Milo Shattuck. Milo, 25, was a young poet from Worcester, Massachusetts. After graduating from Harvard in 1928, he served as the secretary for a famous travel lecturer, Richard Halliburton, and toured America with him. After a semester of Harvard graduate school, Milo was given $1,000 by the playwright Thornton Wilder to go where I pleased and come back a man, to go where I willed. I went beyond all foreseeing. On April Fool's Day, 1930, I arrived at Merida Stars in North Devon in a typical tumult. There, my real life took shape, and all previous and future experience became merely illustrative. Milo spent a year and a half in Devon teaching for 2 terms at a small private boys' school. In the summer of 1931, Meredith sent Milo to America to contact certain interested people and tell them about Meher Baba and his intended visit to England that fall. It was Milo who had first told Watson about Baba. He had also met a devoted couple named Malcolm Schloss and his companion Jean Adriel at a farm in Hancock, New Hampshire, owned by Catherine Gardner. There's a footnote. Malcolm and Jean were not married, but lived together as common law man and wife for many years. Milo told Malcolm and Jean about Baba and his coming visit to the West. Malcolm and Jean had been thinking of starting a spiritual retreat where people could come from time to time with the view to discovering their inner resources in an atmosphere of silence and meditation. A footnote. Letter from Jean Adriel to Henry Foreman, UCLA Archives. They were interested and eager to go to England to meet Baba and experience Meredith's retreat, but financial circumstances prevented them. However, they wrote letters to Meredith, which he showed to Baba, who smiled and remarked, "They are mine. It is essential that they meet me." With the help of friends and an anonymous gift from Watson, Malcolm and Jean had managed to save enough money to travel to England in October 1931. But they received a cable from Meredith informing them not to come and that Baba was going to America and they were to be his hosts. Therefore, when Watson returned from meeting Baba, Jean and Malcolm were preparing for Baba's visit. 40 miles outside of New York City, on the banks of the Croton River, they found a place for Baba and his group to stay. It was called the Harmon Retreat, and over 350 devout souls were informed about the master's coming. Jean and Malcolm took up this activity with great enthusiasm, and regular correspondence began with Meredith concerning Baba's visit. Meanwhile, Kitty and Zilla arrived in Devonshire at 9 that night and saw Baba for a few minutes. The following morning, Wednesday, 16th September, 1931, between 6 and 7, Baba instructed Herbert about his future. As mentioned, Herbert had accepted a job in China as professor of English literature under the League of Nations, and Baba directed him to proceed to China immediately. Herbert grasped Baba's feet and wept like a child. He told Baba, "I could not do anything for you. I had promised you, but I could not fulfill my promise." Baba calmed him and assuring him that there was no cause for worry. Everything would be all right. Baba then gave Herbert the following instructions, quote, be a vegetarian, do not smoke or drink, meditate for 1 to 2 hours daily. In your spare time, mingle with the Chinese people and make friends with them. Besides this, whatever else you are to do with them, you will be impelled to do inwardly. Never take opium. Be friendly with, it's a little off, has to be a little lower. Yeah. Be friendly with the English as well as the Chinese. Lead a simple life. You should hold a meeting at least once a fortnight to talk about me to those interested. Do not worry and discharge your duties conscientiously. I will come to see you in China. Those were Baba's words. In the afternoon, Baba went to the beach with Herbert, Meredith, Margaret, Kitty, Zilla, Rustam, Ali, and Chanchi, and played cricket and other games for a few hours. In the evening, there was a tea party in the open compound, and photographs were taken. The weather was splendid as the sun shone throughout the days of Baba's visit. Baba played with a kitten, and his love of animals and nature impressed everyone in the group. Relaxing, some of the ladies casually stretched their legs towards Baba, which in the East is considered bad manners and disrespectful to a guru. The Mandali, however, had to keep quiet, and Baba did not correct the women either. At 7:45, Baba took a small number of the group, Herbert, Kitty, Zilla, Meredith, and Margaret Starr, and sat in the open, listening to the distant lapping of the waves and enjoying the beauty and calm of the solitude around them. In the august presence of the Master, in this ideal surrounding and beautiful silence of nature, these 5 individuals soon began weeping and did not stop for 3 hours, from 8 until 11. Baba,
I can't see, Rosalie, I can't see anybody who's here. So have someone else read anytime you need it.
Okay, I'll continue a little.
Okay.
Jay is here, and Mona and VJ. Okay, Baba sometimes held their hands and often asked them what they were thinking. The next morning, accompanied by Mr. and Mrs. Watson, Herbert left Devonshire. Baba and several others walked a distance with them as they departed. Baba gave Herbert his scarf and an orange to eat on the train, which he later ate, peel and all. During this stay, Meredith was a manager of the retreat and would keep those visiting strictly submissive to his wishes. Even Rustam and Chanchi were not spared his dictums. Some of the lovers resented Meredith's behavior when the Master himself was staying with them. And Kitty asked Baba once, why is a medium required to see God?
Good.
Yeah. Baba dictated, quotes, it will take more than an hour for me to explain it to you. But, he added, Meredith is not any different from any of you, nor is he a medium. And it is not as you think. No third party is required to take you to the goal. Despite Meredith's disapproval, Baba spent time with his devotees, walking on the beach, climbing the cliffs, playing games like cricket, carom, ping pong, and tiddlywinks with Ali, Zilla, Kitty, and Kenneth Ross. All were enchanted to be in Baba's company.
I challenge you to a game of tiddlywinks, Rosalie.
Supplementing these close ones staying at the retreat, outsiders were permitted to come and meet the master during the 10 days he stayed at Combe Martin. For the most part, however, Baba's visit was kept secret and no event resembling a public darshan was scheduled. Those who came were either relatives or acquaintances of those who were already devoted to Baba. One day, Baba explained at length about creation, rebirth, and God realization. He ended by stating, let these matters not be a headache to you. All this is only by way of explanation. Don't rack your brains over it. Love is supreme and only love counts. However much you read, hear, or understand about spirituality, it does not lead you to knowledge. Knowledge is a totally different thing, and it can only be gained through love. Love, pure and steadfast. And I'll give my reading over to VJ. Do you want to read, or Mona? I don't know. Okay, someone will answer. I hear someone.
Where do I take it from, Rosie?
Okay. I'll write it on Friday, 18th September.
On Friday, 18th September, 1931, Baba went hiking with a group to see a cave. A discussion thereupon ensued about photographs being taken. One was taken of Baba holding a lamp. Meredith said that a photograph of Baba should be taken in a natural pose, wearing only his sadra, and then one of Baba with the group. It was cold in Devonshire, despite the sunshine, and all had worn woolen coats. Naively, Rosie, could you mute yourself? Thank you. Naively, they thought Baba, being the avatar, God incarnate, was immune to cold. Baba fulfilled their wish by remaining for over an hour in only his thin muslin sadra as photographs were taken. All were pleased, but they did not suspect in the least that Baba was suffering. Age wished to explain to them that the avatar descends in human form as man, and because it is his wish, he remains affected by the vagaries of nature. Feeling heat and cold like any other human being, in relation to nature, he uses his body like an ordinary man and does not make use of his power over it. The avatar is infinite God described into man form. He's a man and does all that an ordinary man does. Yet, simultaneously, he is fully conscious of everything in the universe. In this mystery of God become man lies his divine Leela and, and his game in unity. Mabel Ryan, 41, was a South African dancer and Margaret Kraskey's partner in the ballet school. Mabel arrived in East Chalacombe on the 19th of September. That day, Baba went with the group to the cliffs by the seashore and walked through the meadows of the valley. Margaret and Mabel gave a dance performance and others sang songs. Baba gave his intimate sahavas to these close ones and played cricket with them. The master kissed their hearts with his love, and that kiss proved to be the medium which tore out the pages of their ephemeral life stories. A loving kiss of such power was sufficient to peel away the pages of their lives upon lives. What magnitude that kiss must have had, age mused. The power of it can never be imagined, for no power on earth is sufficient to wipe out a single sanskara. Only his kiss can do that. Baba's kiss soaked the soil of the Western world with tears. Whoever approached Baba would shed tears, and only their tears had his deepest communion. The language of the heart is quite different. It can only be spoken through tears. After setting the heart aflame, the tears themselves dissolve into fire. Unable to bear the heart's plight, sealing the lips, the fire begins, singing a song within that none except the divine beloved can hear. Baba's Western lovers were learning to sing this song. Next page, please. Baba would stay up late at night with his lovers outside under the stars. However, all would feel fresh when Baba woke them early in the morning after lunch on Sunday. 20th September 1931, Kitty and Zilla departed for London and Enid left the next morning. And Pawal, who was staying nearby with friends, was given an interview on the 21st. Anne had been interested in theosophy and had met Meredith during a previous stay at East Chalacombe. She was from Wales. So Baba called her Welsh Anne. 30 years later, she wrote of the first meeting. On arriving at the East Chalacombe house, I felt defeated, helpless, and hopeless. I found support learning on the porch by the front door. The whole burden of my past seemed to be upon me. I felt a tremendous upheaval, and it did not seem possible to me at that moment that Baba was who he claimed to be. Baba was playing poets, British variety of horse shoes, which his disciples in the garden, with his disciples in the garden. He left the game and went and sat on a garden seat. He looked at me and called me over to him. beckoning me to sit by his side. Then he placed his hand in mine. At that moment, the burden was lifted and my real self was revealed to me. I was weeping when I met Baba, and I continued weeping in his presence. A disciple was about to console me, but Baba said, "Leave her alone. She will be very sincere towards me." I do not remember leaving Baba's physical presence. It was a timeless experience, as though I transcended the space of the 4 miles as I returned walking to the South Devon. Upon my arrival there, my friends inquired as to what did I think of Baba. I tried to express my thoughts to them, but found my experience was beyond words to explain. The calm and peace remained with me throughout the years until the present day. In the afternoon of 21st, Baba called Kim, Margaret Praske, and Margaret Starr privately and explained in detail with a diagram the process of creation, evolution, reincarnation, and involution of consciousness. At the end, to Margaret Raske's great relief, Baba told them all not to think too much on any of these details, stating, "Love is greater than anything. Any amount of knowledge or expect explanations." A telegram arrived in Combe Martin on the 22nd from Vishnu and Nasik, conveying the news that Hazrat Babajan had dropped her body in Pune on Monday, 21st September 1931 at about 4:30 p.m. On 18th, one of her fingers had been operated on at Sasan Hospital where Baba was born. Baba commented, "By Babajan having dropped her body, numerous difficulties will crop up and circumstances will soon change. For this reason, yesterday I abruptly changed my plans about proceeding to Persia and then return to India and had decided instead to go to America." The Roundtable Conference, the precarious economy of England, the chaos in Russia, Japan, and China, and the rumors of war all convey that circumstances will now rapidly change. Baba Jan's beloved son sent a telegram to Ghani directing him to donate rupees 4,000 on his behalf towards erecting Baba Jan's marble tomb. While in Combe Martin, it seemed that Baba divided his time between his closest followers. The first 2 days were spent with Herbert, the next 3 with Kitty and Zilla, and the last 4 with Baba, showing special attention to Margaret Kraske and Kim. As various persons would come to see Baba, Aga Ali would announce, "Baba, Kim and company are here." From this, Baba began referring to the group collectively as Kimco. Almost every day, Baba would call Chanji and Rustam to his room to discuss the trip to America, much to the chagrin of Murdet, who would have preferred the Indian disciples take a back seat to his own imagined closeness with Baba. At night, after the others had gone to bed, Chanji would sit on his cot and write notes of the day's activities in his diary. Thus, we have this record. Footnote. Lord Meher, page 1270. From Chanji's diary, it appears that he and Rustam were not on the best of terms at the time. At dinner, Rustam would poke fun at Chanji in front of the visitors, much to Chanji's chagrin. Chanji felt Rustam was trying to make himself look smart or clever at his expense. Only Rajputana Rustam had not been forthcoming when Chanji requested details of interviews where he had been absent. They were sharing quarters at East Chalakom, but Rustam barely spoke to Chanji. In addition, Rustam had requested Baba to be photographed with himself and Herbert, excluding Chanji. Watson and others noticed and asked Chanji why he wasn't in the picture. Chanji was embarrassed by what he viewed as Rustam's selfish indifference to his feelings. Baba would stay up late. After 10 days, Baba decided that it was time to leave Commarton, departing by train with Aga Ali, Chanji, Tom, Margaret, Kim, and Audrey. And Baba returned to London on Thursday, 24th September 1931. He again stayed at the Davies' home while Rustam and Murdath occupied a nearby house. Herbert and Kitty's father, John W. Davy, ran the family printing business, and both he and his wife, Helena, were fortunate to have Baba's close contact. On one occasion, Baba casually discussed ping pong and cricket with John. Helena approached Baba one day and asked, "How am I to understand you? How am I to love you?" When praying, place photograph of me before you, Baba directed her. "I always keep Christ's picture in front of me when I pray," she replied. "Continue gazing at at his picture. It is one and the same. Christ's love is the most supreme ideal. I shall help you inwardly," Baba promised. The next day, Kitty took Baba sightseeing around London to the Victoria and Albert Museum, the zoo at Regent's Park, Westminster Abbey, and the tomb of the unknown soldier. At Westminster, Baba remarked, "Those buried here are fortunate that I have been here." Footnote, please. Westminster Abbey is a Gothic church and the burial place of English kings, famous writers, and personages, including David Livingstone, Samuel Johnson, Charles Dickens, Isaac Newton, and Charles Darwin. Baba requested the same thing about the dead at the tomb of the unknown soldier, that those who buried here were fortunate to be visited by him. Their spirits might have been elsewhere, but Baba saw them. Baba seemed to enjoy the novelty of traveling by the subway, and he went all around London in the Underground Tube to Liverpool Street, Oxford Circus, Shepherd's Bush, and Piccadilly. While in London, Baba would get up early by 6 o'clock, have breakfast at 7:30, glance through the newspaper, and be ready to receive visitors by 9. Kim brought her husband, Desmond Tolhurst, and her daughters, Phoebe Ann and Susan Jane, to see Baba on the 21st. Sorry, on the 25th. Desmond told Baba, "I'm a staunch Roman Catholic and want to lead a life of rectitude. I feel at times that I'm doing wrong and I'm tempted. I repeat my mistakes time and time again. I'm religious minded and want to remain devoted to God and the church." Baba replied, "Be religious, it's good. But eventually, you have to go beyond the Sharia, the traditional rituals of religion. Desmond then asked, are there any true saints and holy priests in Christianity? Next page. Just a moment. Mahu, would you like to read next?
Yes.
Thank
Thank you. Page 1272, The West Learns to Sing, year 1931. There were saints, Baba answered, but the Christian priests are the same type as those priests in every other religion throughout the world. Out of selfishness, priests create and propagate their own customs, tenets, and practices, thereby crippling religion. All these rites, rituals, and ceremonies are the dry husk of the corn. And there's a footnote. In the same analogy, the footnote says, in the same analogy given previously, Baba stated that Shariat represents the husk of the corn, while the kernel inside is the essence of spirituality. The same afternoon, another new visitor came to meet Baba. Quentin Todd, 46, was a British actor, dancer, and choreographer living in London and New York, who had always had an interest in spirituality. He had met Margaret Craske and Mabel Ryan the previous year and had become friends with them. When Margaret returned from Devonshire in the spring of 1931, she told Quentin of Meher Baba and he became eager to meet him. Quentin was brought to the Davies house by Milo Shattock, who he had met at lunch that day with Margaret and Mabel. Quentin felt nervous as he climbed the stairs to Baba's room. When he entered the room, he found Baba seated cross-legged on the bed by the window with Aga Ali and Chanji at his side. However, Quentin was so engrossed in seeing Baba, he later related that he completely forgot about the others around him. Baba smiled and motioned for him to sit beside him. He took his hand and patted Quentin's shoulder. Quentin felt tremendous love and peace emanating from Baba, and also experienced the feeling of recognition of a long lost friend. After a short while, Baba took Quentin's left hand, and within moments, Quentin felt as if an electric current of pure love passed through him. Quentin immediately felt that he must serve Baba in some way. His mind became silent before Baba's silence. All questions seemed to fade away as unimportant. After this first meeting, Quentin recollected about Baba. Quote, what impressed me most was his rather wild air, as if something untamed were alive in him, and his truly remarkable eyes. From then on, Quentin visited Baba every day. On one occasion, Baba Baba assured him that Quentin would do great work for him in the future. Kitty brought one of her piano students to meet Baba. The girl was extremely nervous, but after Baba's kind entreaties for her to tell him what was on her mind, crying and shaking, she whispered something in his ear. Baba consoled her and made her sit beside him. She stayed with him for about an hour. Page 1273. To another who informed Baba that she was a Christian, Baba said, quote, "You merely follow Jesus, but don't love him. You merely follow Jesus, but don't love him. You should love him also." Although the Watsons were staying in a London hotel, they did not come to see Baba. Evidently, after leaving East Chalacombe, Thomas Watson was having second thoughts about Baba. Charles Purdom telephoned him, requesting him to write a letter to the American consul stating that Baba and his attendants were going to America to visit Watson and other friends. Meredith inquired if he and Baba could stay at Watson's apartment, but Watson replied that they had no extra room. Watson's understanding proved limited and his devotion short-lived. He had a positive initial reaction upon meeting Baba, but later he became indifferent. Watson recorded in his diary at this time, Is this worship of a man good? Does not Baba block the path of his worshippers toward realization of God, just as a church dogma does? The worship the people there, East Chalacombe, gave Baba revolts me. The worship the people there, means East Chalacombe, gave Baba revolts me. I certainly have no worship for him, nor do I feel any good influence from him. Although Meredith and Meher Baba have been in London this last week, I have not had the least desire to see them. I feel I have got from them all they can give me. I must work out my salvation in my own way. The thought comes to me this morning, why Shri Meher Baba repelled me? It was because I sincerely or instinctively saw he was beckoning me to a path leading to illumination that was not mine, not the right path for me to follow. I must follow my own. As mentioned, Charles Purdom wrote articles in Every Man magazine about Baba, such as The Perfect Master and The Need for a Teacher. And by reading these, more people came to know of Meher Baba. There's a footnote. Chanji took copies of the articles with him to give to those who were curious about Baba, such as a fellow steamship passengers, immigration officials, and others. Purdom later wrote 2 biographies of Meher Baba. The first was titled The Perfect Master, and the second, The God Man. Although Purdom's wife Lillian remained skeptical for many years to come. She also had Baba's darshan in 1931. One of Purdam's friends came to see Baba on 26 September 1931 and said, after reading the articles in Every Man, I felt I must see you. It was not a superficial thought. I was inspired to see you. Baba expressed his pleasure at meeting him and observed, it is not within the bounds of the intellect to judge a spiritual perfection or to enter a realm of one who has attained perfection. This can only be achieved through love, surpassing the intellect. This love is born only in the pure heart of a real lover of God. Page 1274. It can never blossom in the hearts of those swayed by the intellect's achievements. For this reason, divine personalities, when explaining about themselves, rely more on impulse and inspiration than on intellect. While giving his contact to worthy souls, a perfect master creates impetus within them. Man's innermost being is the house of God, and when contact with a divine being in person is established, the heart echoes with his sweet song. This echo is the gift of the master. By creating the silent impulse within, he makes it resonate. What should I do? The man asked. Meditate on the highest ideal, that is love. Baba urged him. I will help you. Christmas Humphreys was president of the Buddhist Society of London. He had found out about Baba through Kim. One day, he and some others from his Buddhist group came to see Baba. During their meeting, Baba explained, quote, in Sufi's terms, religion has four aspects: Shariat, Tariqat, Ma'rifat, and Haqiqat. Man has to go beyond Shariat, the external aspect. The Muslims consider it unlawful to go beyond Shariat. Yet a Sadguru, perfect master, has such powers that if he wishes, he can make a person God realized in a minute. Baba looked at one of the visitors who, after listening to Baba's statement, was deep in thought. Baba asked him what he was thinking. The man questioned, how is it possible for a person to gain realization within a minute? Baba elaborated, quote, even within a second, all actions can be annihilated and the experience of God instantly given. Bondage to Maya or illusion is always there, and karma or bondage is due to actions. Oops. After, where are we? I'm sorry. After the actions are destroyed,
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
I think
Wow, I somehow got muted. So that's all right. Okay. The man replied, I cannot agree with your statement about karma. How could the effects of actions be done away with within one lifetimes? Why not? Baba smilingly replied, quote, they can be destroyed by the grace of the master. If that is not so, of what use is the guru? What is the value of grace if everyone has to await his turn and time? Baba then dictated the story of his youth. I was studying in college and had no idea about the spiritual truth or infinite consciousness. But an ancient woman named Baba Jan gifted that to me in one embrace. Before that, I could not fast for even one day. After her embrace, I remained on only water for 11 months, and I was absolutely sleepless. But I did not think that I was fasting or not sleeping. It was all spontaneous, and I had no thought of it. Baba then emphasized, quote, I have the experience, and from that experience, I affirm that it is the work of a moment for the Sadguru to root out all past actions. The living Buddha, the master, can do it in the twinkling of an eye. But do not think about it. You will understand all this gradually and know all this to be true. Come back and be with me for 6 hours in November. Then describing Yoga Samadhi, Baba stated, quote, real perception and illumination are permanent, and only the grace of the master makes a person enlightened. There are so many persons who practice yoga and attain samadhi through it. But this state is temporary. No sooner is the yogi out of samadhi than he becomes aware of the world like any ordinary human being. This means that enlightenment is constant and real knowledge is derived from it. Very few can gain enlightenment, seeing God. So what is there to say about the ultimate union with God or self-realization? Christmas Humphreys was very impressed with Baba and later wrote of his meeting in an article titled The Incarnation of Love, from which the following is an excerpt. For the first time in my life, and I have not met another like him, I found myself in the aura of a man who literally radiated love. He combined the profundity of mystical experience with the guileless candor of a child. And his smile was as infectious as the words he used were immaterial. And all the while, he radiated such a pure affection that one wondered why, when all religions praise the value of pure love, should it be a memorable experience to meet one man who practiced it? If there were more Meher Babas in the world today, war would end for want of causes. This man of love sets all man an example, all men an example. Although Humphreys was deeply moved and touched by Baba, he was too involved with Buddhism. He was too involved with Buddhism to give up that path and follow the master under his direct guidance. Other people had similar impressions meeting the master. Maud McCarthy Folds had been suffering from asthma. She once narrated what happened after her first meeting with Baba. Page 1276. I have never met a human being who gives such certainty of inner light so easily, so purely, and as naturally as Baba. I was an utter stranger to him, but the first 2 words he gave me told me of my lifelong besetting weakness. I was with him for 35 minutes only, and I did not ask him to heal me. Nevertheless, I had gotten to him with difficulty that evening. As I was suffering from asthma, which had unexpectedly attacked me a few weeks before and threatened to ruin my work. I was a sick woman indeed. That night when I got home and went to bed, I was awakened out of a deep sleep by a strong, indescribably beautiful Eastern perfume in my room. I sat on the floor and experienced the presence of Meher Baba. I can describe it only as an almost frightening sense of power in the room. It seemed that the hands of a surgeon were operating on my lungs, spine, and other parts of my body. All the time, I was conscious of the terrific power in its greatness, which had got inside my bones and tissues, changing my body as I sat there. Maud had other strange sensations, and the next day went to see Baba to describe her experiences. When she began, Baba stopped her, remarking, I know I have helped you. After this experience, her condition greatly improved. One person later wrote, yes, Chanji, I do agree that once having met Baba, it seems as if the whole of one's life had been leading up to that minute, as if he had been guiding us through the clouds and the storms safely so that we could meet him. On another occasion, an elderly man, Mr. Audrey, came with his wife and child to Russell Road for Baba's blessing. He was a lover of philosophy and a kind-hearted person whom Baba liked. Baba took Audrey's son on his lap and kissed him. Seeing this, Audrey's heart filled with love. Though he tried to check his emotions, tears fell from his eyes.
I can't hear you now.
I'm sorry, why did it go? I don't know why it was muted. Counseling him, Baba explained, quote, the study of book knowledge and philosophy merely satisfies the intellect, but it is not all. The real thing is to think of God, to feel God, and to experience God. Actual feeling, perception, and experience.
Your audio fell out, Mahu dear.
Why is it that? I don't know why audio feels. I don't touch no buttons. Anyway, I read this from beginning. On counseling him, Baba explained the study of book, knowledge, and philosophy.
Oh, we
The
lost your
real-
audio again.
No, I'm unmuted, but it is not all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. The real thing is to think of God, to feel God, and to experience. Actual feeling, perception, and experience should be gained, for these are real. Actual feeling, perception, and experience should be gained, for these are real. Intellectual conviction is the first step, and faith is born from it. But there should be continuous progress. End quote.
We'll end it here. Thank you. What page number are we at, Eugene? Yeah.
1277.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we
we'll
finished
start
1276.
1278 the next time. And
No, actually, we should start 1277. We just finished
Mahu,
1276.
please let it be.